It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth, President and founder of Secure Estate Management. Take charge of your financial future with your personal bank. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Welcome, everybody, to the Your Personal Bank Show. Today, I'm going to do something a little different. I've been sharing the Your Personal Bank concept now for several months now, and getting a lot of people with a lot of questions about, well, how did you learn about this? It's such a different concept in terms of money that most people are familiar with. You know, how did you learn about this? How do you use it? I shared one of the early shows a lot about myself, where I came from, but it's been a while. So I guess I'm going to go back and just kind of share again a little bit of the history. Myself, I've been in the financial industry 22 years. I own a financial agency, insurance company. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Actually, my first business was a retail plant nursery, of all things, in Glendale, Arizona. Some of you old-time residents would remember Paradise Nursery on 51st Avenue in Peoria. I was, I owned that back in the late 80s, right out of college, actually. Started my first, well, I didn't start it. I bought an existing business in that case. And retail business, it was actually good to us until the first Gulf War hit. And, the economy took a dive. I had borrowed a lot of money to get into that business, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out. But learned a lot of great things as a young person, a young business owner. Got some advice from some great resources, SCORE with the Small Business Administration. It was a great learning experience for me. It wasn't fun at the time, certainly, but that gave me the taste of entrepreneurship. And I've owned a service, a landscape company I started after that. I have owned a service company. I owned a real estate investment company, my wife and I. We, at one point, did about 30 properties, rental type stuff, and then moved into development. We built a number of properties, over a dozen, of course, and then 0809 hit here in Phoenix, and we all know what happened there. Did not have good real estate mentors at that time like I do today. One of our previous shows, I'm going to highly recommend, if you're interested in real estate investment, go to yourpersonalbank.com, and that's our website, of course, and you can go back and listen to any of the previous shows on this concept, and especially the October 1st show. John Burley, one of the top real estate investment experts in the country, I interview him on that show. It's a very interesting, a great one of our best shows, frankly. But anyway, yeah, back to myself in terms of all the different businesses I've owned. And then, of course, about 15 years ago, started Secure Estate Management. After being in the financial industry about 6-7 years, being a top producer, been recognized many times in the country, top 10 national producer, and that type of thing. The owner of the company I worked for actually was killed in an airplane crash, tragically. So it really forced us, my wife and I, back in 2003 to really look at our situation and what were we going to do. And we started Secure Estate Management. It's been a successful run, and we've been happy and having fun working with people, educating them. And I really particularly, of course, enjoy working with those business owners, entrepreneurs, those that lead businesses, executives, stuff like that, because I've had such a varied background in real estate, in financial, in retail, service companies. There's not many things out there that surprise me or haven't experienced, or challenges that a business owner, an executive, or a professional who owns a business, work with a lot of professionals, the doctors, the dentists, the attorneys, those types of folks, and, the business side of things, if you know what I'm saying. And many times I'm able to give them offer insight, things that I've learned along the way, both good and bad. One of my common jokes is I tell people, look, if somebody says I've done everything correct, either they've never done anything or they're not telling the truth. So, I usually get a laugh when I'm doing a workshop and those kinds of things, sharing with people, but it's true. A lot of times you learn from the school of hard knocks. Of course, that's the hardest way to learn, but boy, by golly, you learn those lessons well. Of course, mentors is probably the best way, learning from other people's experience. That's the definition of wisdom. That's why I have a lot of mentors in my life today. When I was younger, I was more headstrong and didn't know any better. And, you know how it is. You think you can take on the world, and you realize you make some mistakes along the way, and you learn from them the hard way. And it's not fun, but learning from those mistakes is a key to success. So That's kind of a little bit of background. And when it comes to the personal bank concept, I was introduced to this about 7 years ago. And like I said, I was doing the traditional, we're working with people with annuities and I'm, rolling over IRAs and 401ks and all those kinds of different things, doing the workshops and, retirement planning, dealing with trusts, estate planning. Of course, one of our previous guests was a estate planning attorney. We still recommend to people over the years, for the past 15 years, Ron Compton. Go back to the 1022 show. We interview him there. Highly recommended, again, on yourpersonalbank.com. But, what I came to realize is when I was first introduced to this concept, it wasn't something I was looking for, by the way. And when I run into most people, I share with this concept because it is a paradigm shift in thinking about money. It's how the wealthy, what I've come to learn, the how should I say, the highly wealthy, ultra rich, sometimes people call them, many times it's how they think. And what I've come to realize, both myself personally and most people I work with, is we weren't, and many people I work with are very successful, don't get me wrong, but growing up, we weren't taught, a lot of good educational or tools about money. Back in the day, families, dads in particular, used to take that role and teach, the kids as they grew up about money matters and stuff like that. But that seems to be almost like a lost art or a lost science, if you will. And, Wall Street, no offense, but through the IRA 401k world, has kind of hijacked that role in a big way, in my opinion. In other words, give me one of the comments they say is, give us your money, we'll manage it for you, don't worry about it, and, we'll take care of you. And many times, no offense, not a lot of education goes on. They say you should do this and that. I ask people this all the time. When I look at a statement or look at their accounts, I'll ask them these questions. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why'd you invest in this? Or why'd you do that? Trying to get an idea of what their goals and what they're wanting to accomplish. And more often than not, the answer I get is, well, I don't know, it's what some guy told me to do, or some guy at the bank, or it's what everybody else at work does, or, those aren't good answers. I mean, I don't even know who said this, but if you want to get, when you want to get what everybody else gets, do what everybody else does. Something like that. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And you entrepreneurs out there, you're talking to, that's my heart. Let's face it. Entrepreneurs, and that's anybody who, has a 1099, works for themselves, owns a rental property, doing things on the side, doing things for themselves. You're an entrepreneur, whether you realize it or not. The IRS considers you one. You're filing a separate tax return, or you have entities like LLCs or corporations, etc. You're an entrepreneur. And if you don't, you probably should if you're doing those things. But that's another discussion. My point is this. You're doing things out of the ordinary, out of the mainstream a little bit, being an entrepreneur. It's not what the majority do, certainly. Most people go to work, they get paid, and they do their thing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you step out and do something else, you're stepping out of the mainstream or what the majority of folks do, and you're relying on your own abilities, your own skills, your own time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears, if you will. And so you're not necessarily following the crowd because you feel like you have something that you can do that's different or better, or you can offer a service or a product and make a difference. And it's not normal. It's got its challenges, its ups and downs, as we all know. Well, your personal bank concept is great for the average individual, want to build something for retirement, long-term, tax favored, all that good stuff. Got some guarantees, safety built in, all that. That's great. But it also has that short-term access to capital that I always talk about. That's such a key factor for the entrepreneurial person. See, anyone that's a business person of any kind, or independent contractor, whatever, sole proprietor, you name it. I don't care what your title is. And, let's say most professionals, if they own their own practice, for example, they're an entrepreneur. The thing is, there's two main reasons, according to the Small Business Administration, that businesses fail. I mean, their statistics show 50% of businesses fail in the first 5 years for two primary reasons. And those are lack of experience, knowledge, that kind of thing. That's where mentors and experience come into play, and they can help with that. And also lack of capital. See, when you run into that financial challenge, and I assure you, as a business owner, that's almost certainly going to happen at some point along the way, if not more than once, you need ready access to monies. And the problem is, and again, as a banker, putting my banker hat on for a minute, for those of you who don't know, not only have owned all these and started several businesses, in the retail and the financial services and real estate industries, but I'm also in the process. I'm the chairman of the board of a bank in formation. We're starting a bank, and real exciting news on that front I'll have hopefully in the next week or two. But that's another entrepreneurial endeavor in the banking industry, in the banking world. But access to capital is what you need to be successful and avoid those potential pitfalls that frankly are going to happen at some point along the way. In the next segment, I'm going to talk about what you can do through your personal bank to help offset that and ensure your success going forward. This is Your Personal Bank on Money Radio 1510.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, call Ferenc at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ferenc Toth.
Welcome back. This is Ferenc with Your Personal Bank Show. And hey, talking a little bit about myself because I had several people ask me, where you learn about this personal bank concept, what's your background, that kind of thing. And I guess it's true. People like talking about themselves. You like hearing about yourself. Wow, that 10 minutes went fast, that last segment. So bottom line is, like I said, I've owned a number of different businesses. I was introduced to this personal bank concept. Of course, I own and founded Secure Estate Management 15 years ago. I saw this immediately as a credit facility for our business, for our agency. See, I understand through owning several businesses, and most business owners, business people understand this, entrepreneurs, access to capital is one of the keys to success, to being successful long term. The Small Business Administration echoes that sentiment. We've all heard this. According to the SBA, 50% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years for two primary reasons: lack of knowledge and lack of capital. So I'm trying to address the lack of capital portion. I work with a lot of my clients, by the way, on the lack of knowledge because of my background experience. They can share information with me, or we can talk about ideas and just be a sounding board, because sometimes that's just what you need from somebody who's been there, done that, and understands the ramifications to make the right decisions. But anyway, what I'm going to focus on really today is lack of capital and lack of easy access to capital. Because here's the problem. A lot of people say, well, I've got a line of credit, or I can go to the bank and get a loan, or those kinds of things. The problem is, if your income, whether it's a job loss or a business loss or something like that, at times when you have that lack of income because stuff happens, the economy goes bad, you get laid off, your industry changes, you get a competitor come in, moves in, or takes over online or whatever, you get sick or hurt and can't work. Those things all happen. Okay, that's life. And I'm not wishing it on anybody, but recognize that those things do happen, and you have to prevent or protect yourself from those things. And financially, you have to do so. When you go to the bank, you get a loan. I think it was Mark Twain that said, a banker is a person who will give you an umbrella when the sun is shining. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but the point is, when you need the money, when you really need the money, you can't get the loan because the bankers or the lender's concerned about your ability to repay at that point. So you have to have access to capital where you don't have a credit check, where you don't have an application to submit, and you don't have to get approval. In other words, you have access to that money if and when you need it. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'll just dip into my investment accounts or my IRA or my 401k or those kinds of things. The problem with that is, in most cases, you've either got tax penalties involved by dipping into those resources, or early withdrawal penalties, or at the very least, if you take monies out of an account, an investment account of any kind, what does the future growth do? Well, it stops because you took the money out, you spent it, you used it elsewhere because you had a need, okay? And so you lose the effect of growth, compound growth going forward, which is powerful. See, your personal bank, again, serves a dual purpose. It has the long-term growth, either in the fixed or index options Okay, this fixed is a steady eddy. The index is usually based on S&P 500, where you can get double-digit growth on good market years and not lose on bad years, which is good stuff. Okay, and long-term tax-favored growth for retirement and college funding and various other reasons. That's all great, and there's a lot of investments out there that'll do that. Okay, but what your personal bank does that's unique is it allows you the ability to access those funds for the short term while still earning interest on those monies for the long term. You see, you don't lose your compounding factor, your compounding effect. You don't steal, you don't kill the goose that's laying the golden egg. That's the key thing, and that's where the wisdom is. That's where the unique difference, or the paradigm shift in thinking, if you will, about money is, because you can grow the money long term. That's ultimately the long-term goal for pretty much everybody. But at the same time, you have access when and if you need it, okay, to those funds. And that's so powerfully important for anyone who's ever had a situation in their life where they needed money. And I can sit here and say pretty much that's true for almost everybody. At some point in their lifetime, they've had that need for money. And why is that so important? Again, you don't lose the compounding factor. Compound interest is powerful in your lifetime. Money goes from 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, and so on. Okay? If you take monies that you've been building over time and you're at 2 to 4, now you're getting ready to go 4 to 8, and now you have to tap them, you've lost more than just the money you took. You lost the potential growth of what that compounding effect would have done. It's significant, folks, particularly later in life, which happens to be the times that most of us need money, or income, I should say. That's typically the greatest time in our life we need income. If you want more information on how your personal bank really works, I share with that a lot in previous shows. Go to yourpersonalbank.com, and on there we've got all the previous shows recorded. You can listen to at any time with the topics of what I'm covering. Another thing I want to touch on is, what are some other resources? This is another question I've got. And the earlier question in the last segment is, how did I learn about this? I went to a conference. I'm in the financial industry, wasn't expecting it, and immediately saw as an ability to access funds, create a credit facility for our business. Now, it's done many more things than that for us, of course. Since then, it's changed the finance. Why do I get so excited about this? It's pretty easy. It's changed our financial life personally and through our business. My stress level has gone down dramatically over the last few years because I, like most business owners, we had income. Income varied depending on the economy and various things, okay? We have seasons, you have busy seasons and slower seasons like most businesses. So our income was always variable, and it was never, there was just never, a certainty, if you will. And I've had jobs before too, but let's face it. I mean, in today's economy, are you certain you're going to have that job next year? With everything that happens out there, it just, that's our economy. So many things happen. It's not like our parents and our grandparents' day where you could go to work for a company and pretty much count on being there for a lifetime and getting a pension from that company. That just almost doesn't exist anymore, does it? We're in a transient type of economy. Technology's always changing. Business is changing. It just changes the constant now. So, which can create a lot of stress financially for a lot of people. Having that backup, that resource of the money growing, but access if you need it without tax penalties, without early withdrawal penalties, without losing your future, killing the goose, that laid the golden egg, without killing your future, enabling you to continue to grow compound interest in the future while still accessing funds for short-term needs. It's powerful. And I'm telling you, that's the lack of financial literacy. It's one of the biggest problems in America we face today. This stuff isn't taught. We're taught, what are we all taught? We're taught to invest our money, give it to somebody. There's a lot of good money managers out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not picking on them. But we're basically taught to give our money to someone to invest it for us. And, hopefully they do a good job, right? And it works out. And we're subject to market forces that we have no control over. We're subject to tax implications that change constantly that we have no control over. There's a lot of things financially in most people's lives that they just don't really have. They have little or no control. And it's sad because, again, that creates stress. When you you're going to need money down the road for retirement, for example. You're going to need income. You know you're going to need it, yet you're putting away, you've got these uncertainties in terms of what is it going to earn? What is it going to do? What's the tax ramifications going to be? How much are the taxes going to be at the time that I need it? These are all unknowns that nobody can answer the question. When you're looking at something, you're looking at prospectuses and things like that, there's no way of knowing what it's, there's guesstimations, there's history, there's charts, but you just don't really know what it's going to do. One of the things I talk about all the time is, when you buy a stock or you buy a piece of real estate or you buy a business, can you tell me what it's going to be worth in a year? You don't know. You can look at charts, like I said, you can guesstimate, but you just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty, which again creates stress. Taking control of your money. I'm going to say that again. Taking back control of at least some of your money is powerful, not only in terms of growing your money, but it's powerful psychologically in terms of reducing stress, because you have control of some of your dollars without having to go to somebody to ask or get qualified for or anything like that, because you have a need and you don't have to have tax implications, and you don't have to have penalty implications, and you don't have to lose the future growth on that money in the future if you don't want to. Okay? Again, it's a different way of thinking about money. And like I said, I was talking to those my entrepreneur friends out there. I'm one myself. You've stepped out and done something different. Why not take a look at something a little different that could really enhance what you do and really fit your lifestyle much better than maybe what's the norm, okay, or what the mainstream, what everybody else does. Not that this isn't mainstream. It's just a little bit different. It's a different way of thinking about money, a paradigm shift in thinking. Next segment, I'm going to talk about how to reduce stress, financial stress, which is the number one cause of stress in Americans today. You're listening to Your Personal Bank show on Money Radio, 1510 AM or 105.3 FM.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, call Ferenc at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ferenc Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show, and I've been covering a lot of great stuff, but it's not so much detail stuff today, but more the bigger picture things, and answering a few questions that I've been getting recently, like how did you learn about this? How are you using it yourself? The personal bank concept I shared. I'm an entrepreneur, own several businesses. I own Secure Estate Management, a financial insurance agency. And I saw this 7 years ago as a way to create a credit facility for our business so that those cycles, natural, normal cycles of business where we needed funds, instead of borrowing money from the bank like a line of credit like many businesses have, and you're borrowing money because you don't have enough to pay the bills, right? On top of it, then you're paying interest. It's sort of like kicking a dog when it's down. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And when I started realizing how much interest, when I really sat down and, did the taxes at the end of the year and look at all the expenses and stuff and realizing how much that we were spending on interest alone just to banks for the servicing our line of credit, it was ridiculous. And I thought, gosh, if we could just, create our own credit facility, earn interest on that money rather than pay it, what would the difference be? It was significant. And then having access to those funds, like I said, when you need them is so powerful, but also growing that money, compounding long-term, tax-favored, safely, all that good stuff, builds some security for the future, and you gain control of your money. Folks, that's probably maybe the biggest thing I'm trying to share today is instead of doing what everyone else does all the time, why not take back control of your life and your money? Okay? You can do with it what you want, but it's your money. One of the things I love telling people when I'm doing a workshop or stuff, I work with a lot of investors and such, and I was actually speaking to a group of real estate investors a couple months ago, in Chicago, and it was like, I asked them a real simple question. I said, how many of you, you guys deal with borrowing money from banks and lenders all the time, right? And they're like, yeah, it's a normal part of business. Where can you access funds without any credit checks, without any applications, get the money in a day or two if needed, and have access to your money at a very low cost? And they're like, nowhere. I said, exactly. Here it is. Because the times you need money, when you really need money because stuff has gone wrong, you can't get it. No lender's going to loan it to you at the time when you really need it. But if you have your own, access to your own without those credit checks, without those approvals, guess what? You can gain control of your money. What does that do? Gaining control of your money. I find it remarkable. Go to my family and I is something. I'm actually half. That's another thing about myself. My name Ferenc Toth. What is that? I'm Hungarian, actually, half Hungarian by nature. My heritage, I should say. My dad escaped the Soviets back in the 50s. I was born here, so my wife, when we first met, she thought I would have an accent, and I was like, no, I'm as American as apple pie. I was born here, but it gave me a perspective from my dad coming from the old country and escaping communism and things like that as a young person. He was a young adult when he did. And then going back, our family likes to go back to Europe. We've gone back. We've been fortunate to go back 4 or 5 times over the last number of years to spend some time over there in the summer and actually get to know some of the people there. And, the perspective is different. And I'm not saying it's better, but it's amazing how we see the perspective of Europeans as being different than the typical American. One, they're a lot less stressed. And they're much more low-key in general. Not everyone. But it's just a difference in perspectives about life. And it's kind of refreshing, frankly. I'm a business owner. I'm in the financial industry. We're dealing with money. A lot of those kind of for people's lives. That can be very high stress situations, and I deal with a lot of high stress situations with a lot of my clients when they're running into financial challenges. Because here's the thing, what is the number one cause of disease? Most doctors will agree with this. Any of them I talk to, or clients of mine or whatever, all say the same thing. The number one cause of disease is stress. I've seen studies that said that something like 40% of all disease people in the hospital, if they would just lower their stress levels, wouldn't be there. So, stress is a big, big problem in America. And what's the number one cause of stress? Study after study shows this. There's so many, most of us just know this inherently. And the number one cause of stress, most common one, is financial problems. Not having enough money or access. It's really not even having enough money is the problem. Not having enough access to funds is typically, when it boils down to it, is the problem. Causes a lot of stress, okay? And we all know this one. We've all heard this many times. What's the number one cause of divorce? Well, financial problems. I always say, how many times, have you been home and the husband or wife comes home and they're just all pissed off because, honey, gosh darn it, there's too much money in the checking account. You don't have arguments about that. You have arguments because there's not enough, or it's not being allocated. Both partners don't believe it's being allocated efficiently, and they're arguing because, well, there's just not enough to go around in many cases, right? So, like I said in the last segment, financial literacy is probably one of the least taught things in America today. Traditionally, basic financial literacy was taught in the home historically. And that role's kind of been hijacked. Schools don't teach it. How many classes did you learn in school at any level about financial stuff? We take on interns with our company. We've done this for years, and our office used to be located by ASU. Now we're up by Paradise Valley Mall area. But when we were down in the ASU area, we were there for about 13 years. Took a lot of business students as interns over the summers from the W.P. Carey School of Business, one of the top business schools in the country. These were sharp kids. And, gosh, they could lay out how to do an international business deal and, just all kinds of stuff. But I would ask them simple questions like, well, when you get your first real job out of college, and most of them make over $100K a year in their first job, what do you plan to do with for the future? The answers we get is, I don't know, or I guess put it in the stock market. I mean, why? Well, that's what everybody else does, right? I mean, how to balance a checkbook, even online. No clue. None of that stuff was taught. And these are brilliant people, brilliant kids, college students, like I said. Lenders don't teach this stuff. Bankers, lenders, stuff like that. Hey, I'm a banker. I'm a chairman of the board of a bank in formation. It's not the bank's role to teach you about financial stuff, financial literacy. Basically, they want to see if you can qualify, if they lend you money, if you can pay them back. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And Wall Street doesn't teach that. They want fees. Let's face it, they want to manage your money. They want you to give them your money to manage this thing, charge fees, and they make some money. I mean, that's the facts. And, throughout the IRA and 401k world, mutual fund world, it's kind of hijacked a lot of that financial literacy role that used to be in the home. It's more today you hear about, well, just let me manage your money. Well, not, like I said, I'm not against money managers. It's not bad people or anything. But there's just a lack of education in most cases. It's, well, we think you should do this and do that. And there's not a lot of education happening. Most people don't really understand what they're investing in or why. And Warren Buffett is famous for saying never invest in something you don't understand. Warren Buffett's a pretty smart guy about money. I think most people would agree. Okay? And we hear this, we hear things like, give us your money and we'll manage the risk and grow it for you, or hang in there, it'll get better when things aren't going well. And how's that worked out? We've had a bull market the last decade. Certainly, for some people, it's worked out great. But what about the boom and bust cycles? Okay? And the Dalbar study. The Dalbar is a statistical research study for over 30 years. And, it's an independent research study. And they state average annual return for investors for our 401ks is a little over 2%. That's net of all fees, all costs. They take actual statements, actual fees. People in the financial industry, when I share this information, by the way, most financial people are familiar with the Dalbar study. It's not generally known in the public. Most people, in the industry, get frustrated or upset with me when I share this information because they're like, why are you saying that? We're teaching people how to get 7% or whatever, 6, 7, 8%. But it's not real in most cases, according to Dalbar. In fact, I have an interesting story of a client of mine who a couple of years ago at one of my workshops, unbeknownst to me, was in the financial industry. In fact, worked for she was the CFO of a major company who he didn't sell these, but managed the fiduciary for 401ks for many thousands of companies, hundreds of thousands of clients. And he walked out of my workshop, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that at the time, called me back the Monday and said, Ferenc, I have to apologize to you. And I said, why is that? He goes, well, when you said the 2.2 or 2.3% from the Dalbar study, I didn't believe you. I was mad. I walked out. I'm the CFO of the company. And in the last 15 years, I took the numbers. This is about 2 years ago. Took the numbers of all the actual returns of all the hundreds of thousands of accounts that we handle for many major companies. And he says, you know what our average annual return was? Net of all fees and everything. I said, what? He said it was like 2.3. So you're right. Today, he has several personal banks because personal banks average much higher than that. There's guarantees that are higher than that, in fact. And it's your money. Plus, you get tax favor benefits. I'm going to go into more detail about how that can work and reduce stress going forward in the next segment. Stay tuned every Tuesday at noon for Your Personal Bank radio show, or contact us at yourpersonalbank.com.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, call Ferenc at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ferenc Toth.
Welcome back. We're rounding third. We've been covering a lot of stuff on the Your Personal Bank Show today. Started out with a little bit of my background. Got a lot of people asking me where I learned about this. As a business owner, I saw the Your Personal Bank concept as a way to take control of our money for our business and create a credit facility for our business. And it's done that, and done that for many, many of our clients over the past number of years. It's been an awesome tool for us. And like I said, it's made a real difference. It's changed the financial trajectory of many individuals I've worked with. We're talking about hundreds of them. both personally and through their business. It's pretty exciting. And then a paradigm shift in thinking about money. How do the wealthy, the ultra wealthy, really think about money? And of course, the key is, too, for most people, take control. Take control of your money and what that does. So you have access to it if you need it. Building it for the long term, of course, for your future, but having access if you need it, that reduces stress. Stress is one of the biggest challenges we deal with in America today. And gosh, anywhere you can reduce financial stress is really a good thing for most people. And now the last segment here, I just really want to talk. I started touching on it and sharing a secret about the financial industry that most people most people in the industry don't want me to share. And that is, what is the actual returns that people are seeing in their accounts, their 401ks and IRAs and such like that. And I'm really referring to, and you can look it up, it's the Dalbar study. It's a Dalbar statistical research study, it's called. They've been doing it annually. It's an independent statistical research firm for over 30 years. It's very familiar in our industry. It's probably one of the best known statistical research studies out there. And they take the average actual returns. They look at actual statements of thousands of accounts every year. I've got personal experience with clients of mine who are in that industry who can verify the same thing. And in most years, the average annual return account, despite tremendous boom and bust cycles over the last 30 years, I think we can all agree the stock market has seen some tremendous ups and downs over the last 30 years. The average annual return, according to Dalbar, net of fees, is 2.3%. And are there double-digit returns in good years? Absolutely. But you've got to count in the down years. It's kind of like this. It's really more like you have somebody who likes to go to Vegas and gamble, and it's something they do on a regular basis. Do you ever hear about the losses? You always hear about the wins, and that's human nature. We tend to be positive. We want to talk. We get excited about the wins. But here's the reality in the back of our mind. We all know this. If you've ever been to Vegas, they've built some really nice palaces on the Strip, haven't they? Those hotels are awesome. And those hotels are not built off of winnings, people winning. Those are built off of people losing, which means, and we all know this statistically, the house always wins, right? In Vegas. Psychologically, it'll be the other guy. Here's the reality. There's more losing that happens than winning, and the person that talks to you about the winnings hasn't shared with you all the years of losses, okay? You have to average it out. And when you talk about investing, it's the same thing. You can get tremendous, great years where I got this great double-digit return this year and all that. It's awesome. I hope you get more of them. But there are bust cycles, too, and there's fees and there's costs. And like the Dalbar study says, most fees are hidden and intentionally difficult to calculate. People say, that's not what... It's how it works. That's the industry, okay? Here's the thing. I share with people this all the time. When it comes to having a money manager, having somebody, again, I'm not saying you shouldn't have one because, frankly, the other studies show that, on average, people do better with one than without one, by the way. So you're probably better off with a money manager. So I don't want anybody coming, attacking me and say, money manager. No, that's not the case. They actually help you make more than what most people do on their own. But it's not nearly the numbers or amounts that people that think in most cases, again, according to the Dalbar study. And here's the analogy I use. I use this with a lot of real estate investors. Most people know this. When you go into a deal with a partner, real estate, and this is common, and you have a sweat equity partner and you have a money partner. So one partner has the money, the other one's going to do the work. Most of those real estate partner deals are 50-50 split. That's pretty common out there, okay? Well, again, according to Dalbar, the average annual return for investors, which is you, the money partner, is 2.3% over the last 30 years. The average sweat equity partner, who's that? That's the money manager. The average fees, again, according annual fees, all fees, is 2.2%. So about the same, according to Dalbar. So what that means is about half the gains are going to the Wall Street partner, okay? Now, is your partner worth it? I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying your money manager is a bad person. I'm saying, is it worth it? Understand, and there's an article I can share with anybody who wants to contact us at yourpersonalbank.com or toll free 866-515-6280. I'll send you an article by oh gosh, he's the founder of Vanguard. Oh, I'm drawing a blank at the moment, his name, but John Bogle of Vanguard, and talks about this very thing. It basically, the money manager is going to make about the same as what you're going to make long term. That's how the industry works. That's the partnership you have with Wall Street. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing, and they do in general help people make more money because of professional money management brings to the table a lot of things that an individual doesn't have those resources or time or capability or desire to do. So you're probably better off with a money manager than without one. The statistics show that too. But my point is, understand what you're doing and what you're dealing with, what your real rate of return is, okay? Calculating. So one of the simple ways of doing this, and I get people all the time, I get clients say, oh, I've made 6, 7, 8%. Those are the numbers I hear commonly. And I said, show me your statements from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. Let's look at your accounts from several years ago versus today. And let's also, though, each year look at your contributions. See, one of the biggest mistakes I see investors make is they discount their contributions to the overall result. Yes, maybe their account did go up 6, 7, 8%, but half or more of that gain might have been their own contributions. And they don't realize how much their contributions have helped build that account. So that when it's all said and done, then we can calculate their real rate of return, which most often comes in similar to what Dalbar says, in the 2-3% range. That's common. I see that all the time. And so people, why am I bringing this up? Your personal bank, okay, gives you control of your money. And you can earn guaranteed interest rates. The contract guarantees 4%, currently crediting 5%. You can do the index options where you can make a double-digit return on good market years and no loss on down years. So you can eliminate those down years, okay? What does that do? It makes your actual average rate of return much higher than what most people are doing with risk. Why is this so important? Well, do yourself the favor. In fact, if you don't look at this, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you don't take a real look at the numbers, which we'd be happy to do for you, show you the difference and show you how you can gain control of your money, have access to your money, build it long-term, get tax favor benefits, and have some guarantees. And you're going to earn, in most cases, what I find, comparing to where somebody has been, what they've been doing, to what we show them, they're doing as well, if not better. And I know the money managers are going to go crazy about this, but it's a fact in most cases that I have dealt with personally in dealing with clients. They now have a greater rate of return on their money than they did before, with guarantees, with tax favors, with tax favor growth, all of that. Plus, there's a death benefit for those catastrophic things, somebody passing away prematurely, and there's a long-term care benefit that's built in at no additional cost. So we can kill several birds with one stone, because I don't think anyone would disagree that long-term care is expensive and a problem for most people in terms of having coverage for that or protection for that. We have that all built in. So you're covering several things at once. But again, the main reason for doing it is to grow money long-term for the future, retirement, etc., on a tax-favored basis, but at the same time have control and access to those monies at a very low cost for the short term when stuff happens, when life happens. And what does that do? I guess the big message today is it reduces your stress in your life. Less stress means a better life. It's just that simple. You've been listening to the Your Personal Bank radio show. I'm Ferenc. Had a lot of fun today. Stay tuned every Tuesday at noon on Money Radio 1510 AM or 105.3 FM, or contact us at yourpersonalbank.com.
Listen next week at noon for more information on Your Personal Bank. Contact Ferenc at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com.
This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guests on this program do not engage in rendering legal, accounting, or tax advice. Expert advice from a professional involving your specific situation should be sought, if required. Permanent life insurance is a long-term investment. Products, optional features, and riders may have limitations, restrictions, and additional charges and may not be available in all states. Withdrawals beyond principal may be taxable income. Excessive and unpaid loans may cause the policy to lapse. If a policy lapses, unpaid loans are treated as distributions for tax purposes. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be penalties and surrender charges when replacing coverage. New products may include new surrender charges and contestability period. Policy guarantees are based upon the claims-paying ability of issuing insurance company and do not apply to the investment performance or assets in the underlying variable portfolios. The life insurance and annuity products in this presentation are not FDIC insured, may lose value, and are not bank guaranteed.